March is Women's History Month, and this is day 30 of talking about strong women, women you need to know. Today, let's talk about Miss Jeanette Rankin, born in Missoula, Montana, June 11th, 1880. She was the youngest of 6 children. She was born in Montana 9 years before it became a state. Her father was a wealthy mill owner and her mother a teacher. They grew up on a family ranch where, as my daddy said, there are no boys and girls jobs on this place, and it was the same for Miss Jeanette. She helped out with cleaning, sewing, farm chores, outdoor work. She even worked on maintaining the farm machinery, and anything else that needed to be done. In her childhood, her dad owned a piece of property with a building on it that he wanted to rent out, and it was young Miss Jeanette who built the sidewalk, a wooden sidewalk, entirely by herself around the property so that it could be inhabited by its new renters. As a young lady in the 1890s, in the frontier, the raw frontier, she noted that even though women were expected to carry equal shares of the work that needed to be done, they did not have equal rights. They did not have equal say politically or any other way, and most definitely did not have the equal right to vote and have their voice heard. Okay. She graduated high school in 1898, and when she completed that, she went on to the University of Montana, where she earned her bachelor's degree in biology. She took several jobs after that, but her father passed away, and she went to the farm, or to the ranch, and helped raise her siblings. At the age of 27, she landed in San Francisco, where she was trying her hand in a new field called social work. She liked it a lot and felt like it fit her, and went for further education in New York at a school from 1908 to 1909, and it dealt with philanthropy. She liked that a lot, and then she left school there and went on to Washington State, where she got involved in women's suffrage. In 1910, Washington became the 5th state to give women the right to vote. She left there after that happened and went back to New York to help get legislation passed there, and also went to Washington, D.C., where she lobbied Congress on behalf of the National American Women's Suffrage Association. Once she had done that, she returned to Montana, where she rose through the ranks of the organization, the suffrage organization, and until she got to the top, basically. And then in 1911, she became the first woman to speak to the Montana legislation. And in 1914, Montana became the 7th state by that time to give women the right to vote. Well, Miss Jeanette Rankin thought she could do more. So she stepped out, and in 1914, she decided to run for Congress. She was a progressive, supported suffrage, social welfare, and prohibition. She spoke against corruption and dysfunction in the government, stating that the corruption and dysfunction of the government was a result of having no participation from women. She also was a staunch pacifist, and said of that, when I guess she had been told at some point that that was not a women's problem, she quipped back, "Oh yes, peace was indeed a woman's problem." She was elected in November of 1916 to Congress, and that made her a very special person. It made just Miss Jeanette Rankin the very first woman to ever be elected to a federal office in the United States. It also garnered her several marriage proposals, all of which she turned down, and remained single her entire life. She didn't make very many friends in Congress as a pacifist, because in 1917 the U.S. wanted to declare war, and she voted no. Even though 49 male representatives and 6 male senators had also voted no, it was Miss Jeanette Rankin, the sole female, who voted no, that was singled out. During her term, she continued to fight for people who needed a voice, and one of the things she did was fight for workers' rights. There had been an explosion of a coal mine where about 146 or 149 men had died, and she wanted to speak to the coal miner owners, the coal company owners, and she could not even get the owners of the coal mine companies to meet with her because, well, female. She also pushed for better working conditions for the federal workers in the Bureau of Engraving, and she couldn't get anybody to listen to her there, so she hired a journalist, a female journalist, to go do some investigative work. And when all of that information was gathered and presented, the Treasury conducted then its own investigation and found out that yes, indeed, changes did need to be made, and they did. By 1917, 40 states had now given women the right to vote. She continued to work for universal women's suffrage even though her term was up, and by 1919, the 19th Amendment had been ratified in the House of Representatives and the Senate, and that was on August 18th of 1920, and then certified on August the 26th of 1920, giving women everywhere in the U.S. the right to vote. When her term was up, she moved to a farm in Georgia and led a peaceful life, although make no mistake, she was still very busy in public life, giving her voice to anyone who needed it, women, children, voted for civil rights, anything else that she needed to do, and most certainly she spent a great deal of time with peace organizations, spreading peace as well. Well, after many years of doing that, she decided to run for Congress again at the age of 60 in 1940, and she won. She once again made no friends, though, in Congress with her staunch pacifism, because in 1941, Pearl Harbor happened, and the day after Pearl Harbor, she voted no for war. Needless to say, she caused quite the turmoil, in fact, so much so that she had to be hidden in a phone booth and call for the Capitol Police to be rescued. Although many people were angry with her because of her vote no against the war, many also stated that they did respect her because at least this woman did stand up and voted her conscience. Once her term was up, she traveled the world teaching peace and even studied, I can't remember if it was with Gandhi or at his school, but she even went to India and went anywhere else. She also even up until the 60s and the early 70s, she was still going to marches and gatherings and anything else she could, speaking not only for the rights of anyone that did not have a voice, but she spoke against war, for peace, and civil rights, every opportunity she could, even up until the 70s. She died at the age of 92 in Carmel, California on May 18th, 1973. Her home in Georgia, she left to an organization that was for mature, unemployed women workers. And her residence in Montana, called the Rankin Ranch, was added to the National Historic Registry in 1976. The Jeanette Rankin Foundation is a women's fund that has helped women over the age of 35 get education, and they have awarded over $1.8 million to women in need of education. A statue was erected in her honor at the National Statuary Hall in 1985, and that piece is called "I Will Not Vote for This War," I believe. There has been a one-woman show in her honor, a musical in her honor, songs written in her honor, and even a mural was commissioned in her honor. And as of this date, Jeanette Rankin remains the only woman ever elected to Congress in the great state of Montana. So today, on this 30th day of Women's History Month, we celebrate this pioneer, this feisty frontierswoman, the woman who spoke for women and civil rights, anyone else who needed a voice. We celebrate the woman who was the very first woman elected to federal office in this here United States, Miss Jeanette Rankin. We salute you.